Why, despite of all this legal framework and constitutional provision, still caste discrimination exists in the society, or why it's continued to exist? So, what is caste-based discrimination? So just look at this slides. These are some of the newspaper report that shows caste-based discrimination is not history, that it still exists even in this 21st century. So what is caste-based discrimination? Imagine being denied water from a well and being humiliated only because you are belonging to a particular community or particular caste. And imagine being told that no matter how hard you work, your worth defined or described at your birth. So this is caste-based discrimination. So I'm not talking about history. This is reality that is still happening. So caste discrimination is everywhere, in schools, college, in everywhere, even in burial grounds. So Dalit children, there are newspaper reports. You can see that newspaper reports here. That Dalit children are sometimes paid to clean the school toilet, and some people deny their job opportunities, their job, because they are belonging to a particular community, a particular caste. And also, some temple in India still deny Dalit to enter. And also, even in death, caste exists. Some villages in India still have separate burial or cremation ground for Dalit. So, all this shows that law can punish caste-based discrimination, but it cannot change the mentality or the mindset of the people overnight. So, no law can erase caste discrimination unless the society itself ready to change. So, when it comes to the legal framework regarding caste-based discrimination, in India, the Indian Constitution not only prohibits caste-based discrimination, but it also provides special provision for the welfare and upliftment of historically disadvantaged community. So, this legal safeguard ensure equality and protection of rights and also social justice. So let's look at some of the key provisions that work towards more inclusive society. So Article 14, which is equality before law. Then that is Article 14 guarantees that states shall not deny any person equality before law or equal protection of laws within the territory of India. So this means that every individual, irrespective of their caste, creed, gender or status, is entitled to be treated equally in the eyes of law. So this provision forms the bedrock of India's commitment to eliminating caste-based discrimination by ensuring that no person is treated unfairly due to the social background. Then Article 15, prohibition of caste-based discrimination. Article 15 Clause 1 explicitly prohibits discrimination on ground of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. So this ensures that individuals from historically oppressed castes are not subjected to discrimination in public space, employment, education, and social setting. Then Article 15 Clause 4, special provision for backward classes. So recognizing that formal equality alone is insufficient to uplift disadvantaged group, Article 15 Clause 4 empowers that state to make special provisions for the advancement of socially and educationally backward classes, SC and STs. This enables government to introduce policies and such as scholarship, financial assistance, and reserved seat in educational institutions to bridge the gap between privileged and marginalized community. In Article 15 Clause 5. Article 15 Clause 5. This provision allows the state to reserve seat for SC and STs and OBC in educational institutions, including private institutions, and it ensures access to equality to education for marginalized community by addressing historical barriers to entry in primary institutions. Then Article 16, equality in public employment. Article 16 guarantees equality of opportunity in matters of public employment and prohibits discrimination on grounds of caste, religion, sex, or place of birth. However, it also acknowledges the historical exclusion of disadvantaged groups from government jobs and allows affirmative action to address this disparity. Then Article 16 Clause 4, reservation in public employment. This provision empowers the state to reserve a certain percentage of job in government service for SCs, STs and OBC if they are inadequately represented in public employment. It ensured that historically excluded communities have fair access to government jobs, which play a crucial role in social and economic mobility. In Article 16, Clause 4A, reservation in promotion added to the 77 Constitutional Amendment Act 1995, Article 16, Clause 4A, enabled the government to provide reservation in promotion of SCs and STs in government jobs, since this community often face discrimination at higher level of bureaucracy. So this provision ensures that they have opportunity for career progression. Then Article 17, abolition of untouchability, is a very significant provision in Indian Constitution which abolished untouchability. Then Article 46, promotion of educational and economic interest. This directive principle mandated with the state to promote the educational and economic interest of SCs, STs and other weaker sections. It directs the government to take active measures to protect this community from social injustice and all form of exploitation. So this provision serves as a guiding principle for enacting policies aimed at uplifting marginalized groups. Then political representation for SCs and STs. Since political participation is crucial for the empowerment of marginalized community, the Constitution reserves seat for SCs, STs in legislature to ensure their representation is decision-making bodies. And Article 330, Article 332 and Article 243 D and Article 243T, which deals with political representation. And so the Indian Constitution incorporates a robust framework for promoting social justice and eliminating caste-based discrimination. So when it comes to the legal framework, the Constitution was just a beginning. India passes strong laws to stop caste-based discrimination. Some of them are the Protection of Civil Rights Act 1955, the Protection of Civil Rights Act ensure equal rights and prevent unjust treatment. Then the SC/ST Prevention Atrocity Act 1989 punishes caste-based violence, and the Prohibition of Employment as Manual Scavenger Act. It bans manual scavenging, a job once forced upon certain community as a traditional duty. So these laws are powerful, but the success depends on who enforces them: the government officer, police, and the judges. So with this, I conclude my part of the presentation, and let me invite my co-author Adona Maria James to continue with the rest of the resolution.
Thank you, Akshaya. I appreciate that insightful presentation. Building on that, I will now delve into some real-life incidents or cases that illustrates how caste discrimination persists despite having strong laws and legal frameworks. As we all know, laws can be written, courtrooms can deliver judgments, and even policies can promise equality. But what happens if the society is refusing to have a change? This is what happened with a young scholar with full of dreams and potential who was pushed to death, not by law, but by prejudice. We all might be remembering the tragic death of a Dalit young PhD scholar back in 2016 in Hyderabad, India. Rohit Ugevada. He was a bright Dalit PhD scholar, but he committed suicide, and in his suicide, this was what was written by him, that is, my birth is my fatal accident. How unfortunate is that sentence, because his death was not just a personal tragedy, but it's a chilling reminder to all of us that caste discrimination is still persisting in our society, despite having all these legal protections and strong laws and penal laws that punishes those who practice caste discrimination. And this is not just an isolated incident, because we have been hearing very recent news wherein, in Kerala, a 15-year-old young school-going child committed suicide because he has been constantly tortured and shamed by his fellow classmates on just because of the color of his skin. So. And another case that I would like to draw your attention to is a very recent incident that happened in Thrissur. You might all be aware of the Kudalmanikyam temple controversy, wherein the Tantris, they protested against appointing a lower caste person as Kalagam. Kalagam is actually a staff of the temple that is responsible for arranging the ritual preparations as well as the floral garments and all. So this actually sparked a huge controversy. So these are not just isolated incidents, they show a larger problem because even if we have strong laws to protect or to eradicate caste discrimination, trying to eradicate caste discrimination, it is, unless the society is ready to change, there is no effect to any of it. I'm sorry, I forgot to change the slides. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the power of the literature. While these real-life incidents expose the harsh realities of caste discrimination, literature has served as a powerful tool to actually amplify the voices of the unheard and document the lived experiences of those oppressed by the caste system. Literature has the power to give voices to the unheard, to bring to light the struggles that laws cannot alone handle. One such powerful work is Bama's Karukku, which is a autobiography written by Bama that takes us through the deeply, disturbing personal experiences of a Dalit Christian woman in Tamil Nadu. And through her words, we see the pain of, exclusion, the discrimination, and the courage she needs to live in a society that treats her as an inferior human being or a lesser woman. So then similarly, Mulk Raj Anand's Untouchable may be a work of fiction, but it is actually portraying a realistic picture of caste-based humiliation and oppression. So this is about, this is the story of a young boy named Baka who was exposed to, caste discrimination and reducing human dignity to nothing. So another piece of work is Om Prakash Valmiki's Jutan, which is a heart-wrenching autobiography where he narrates his struggles of growing up as a Dalit man and facing social rejection at every stages of his life. And there is another piece of work that is Yashika Dutt's Coming Out as a Dalit, a book that reveals, in that book she states that she needed to hide her identity of being a Dalit for so long to just find a space in this society, and later on she is embracing her real identity of being a Dalit, and she is actually a reflection of many women, Dalit women in our society. So these stories are not just words in the paper, they are lived experiences. They remind us that caste discrimination is not just a legal issue. It is something that is very, it's something more connected to the human rights or human suffering that continues to exist, affecting real lives, real dreams, and real futures. And until we acknowledge these voices, change will remain incomplete. No. And one of the biggest challenges changing the mindsets, because caste isn't just, as I said, it's not just a legal issue, it's about people's thoughts and behaviors. Because the real struggle is that, there is it's not just a social problem, because there are a lot. Yes, sir?
You have 2 minutes more.
Oh, thank you. I'll conclude it. Yeah, so as I said, there is a lot of psychological impact on people growing up as an oppressed individual of the caste-driven society. So they actually grow up with a lot of fear, shame, and even people believe that they are actually inferior to other people. So even though we have strong laws, societal attitudes often weaken their impact, and that's why caste hierarchies are still existing today. So changing laws is one thing, but changing the mindsets is what actually that we need to address. So what can we do actually? How do we move forward? That is, the first and foremost thing that we must focus on is awareness. It's spreading awareness. That is, the educational institutions like schools, colleges, and even workplaces must take active role in spreading awareness about caste discrimination. And the second one is, of course, action. That is, awareness is not just enough. We must move beyond the legal measures. We must also strengthen the support systems for victims so that they can find a space to speak or to seek help or to ensure that the justice is being served to them. And finally, reformation is important. Reform, it's actually, this means that implementing policies that ensure real social mobility for marginalized communities. Now let me conclude it by saying that laws alone cannot create equality. People must also believe in equality. Mindsets must change, and for that every single one of us must take an active role in society. And caste discrimination is not just a policy issue, it's a human issue. And so today I leave you with this thought. If we wish to see a society free of caste discrimination, we must be willing to change the biases with ourselves, or our communities and our institutions. Because change does not happen by itself, it begins with us. Thank you for all your time and attention.
Thank you, Akshaya and Adona. Now we move on to the next presentation by Murali Ramathoti on caste, marginalization and redressal mechanisms in higher education institutions.
Okay, full set, yeah, full screen. Yeah. Fine. Good morning, everyone. I am Murali Ramathoti. I am from Hyderabad Central University. I recently just submitted my PhD on caste discrimination in higher education institutions. The paper I am going to present now is caste marginalization and redressal mechanisms in higher education institutions. Is one of my chapters of my thesis. So I will start with my abstract. Supreme Court on January 3rd of this year has given strict directions to the University Grants Commission to prepare a data on the establishment of equal opportunity cells in the universities. Equal opportunity cells in the universities are meant for safeguarding the educational interests of the scheduled caste students and scheduled tribe students. So there was a public interest litigation filed by deceased students, Rohit Vemula. You might have known him, who committed suicide in 2016 in Hyderabad Central University. One of the student, Payal Thadbi, the mothers of these students filed a petition in Supreme Court. In the light of the petition, Supreme Court gave these directions. The directions of the Supreme Court highlights the importance of the redressal mechanisms in the university and the negligence of the institutional negligence of the caste discrimination, otherwise caste related issues in the higher education institutions. So, however, educational agencies of the country like UGC and the Ministry of Education have reaffirmed its commitment towards the safeguarding the interest of the scheduled caste, academic interest of the scheduled caste students. In a press note on okay, right. In a press note released by University Grants Commission, accompanied by the Ministry of Education, on July 8, 2019, it affirmed its commitment towards the protection of the scheduled caste students' educational rights. In the press note, it emphasized that it regularly directs the academic institutions to eliminate the caste discrimination. It urged the vice chancellors of the universities to form necessary committees which address the complaints by the SC, ST and OBC students and faculty and staff. However, there is a great approach by huge approach by the civil society organizations and intellectuals and the students across the universities over the negligence of the caste discrimination by these institutions in spite of the proper guidelines by the UGC and other other educational agencies. One of the crucial reports which was prepared by the Sukhdev Thorat in 2007, which studied extensively caste discrimination in one of the premier institutions, that All India Medical Sciences. It highlights that violation. It highlights that AIMS was violating the UGC guidelines in safeguarding the SC/ST students' educational interests. It outlined that AIMS failed to implement the remedial coaching centers. It failed to give a support to the SC/ST students. It follows a disparity in giving grades to the students on caste lines, and moreover, AIMS did not take into the consideration of the segregation of the hostel and social and caste categories. The report underscores the caste-based discrimination in all aspects of SC/ST students' lives and recommended measures to tackle these issues in higher education institutions in India. So given this context, my paper tries to examine the disparity between the affirmation given by the UGC and academic agencies like the Ministry of Education and the uproar and the reports given by the intellectuals and civil society organizations, the students. There is a disparity between the affirmation of the state and the uproar by the students. So my studies try to explore the difference between the gap between these two situations while exploring the experiences of the Dalit students, Dalits and Adivasi students, their lived experiences, their perceptions over the redressal mechanisms and caste discriminations in the higher education institutions. The methodology I used for narrative inquiry. This multidisciplinary and flexible methodology is well suited for studying the complex issues, as narratives link personal and social experiences to a broader social and cultural context. In Indian higher education institutions, caste narratives. In Indian higher education institutions, caste narratives are deeply embedded in institutional discourse and social awareness, but rarely contested through counter narratives. This article explores field sites to analyze caste discrimination and its redressal mechanisms in higher education institutions through structured, semi-structured, and in-depth interviews. For data collection, Data collection involved a combination of primary and secondary resources. Secondary data was collected through public literature, published literature, academic articles, reports and online resources that discuss existing policies and redressal mechanisms related to caste discrimination in education. The primary data was collected through fieldwork across selected higher education institutions. These three higher education institutions are Hyderabad Central University, National Academy of Legal Studies and Research in Nalsar, and the Foreign and English and Foreign Languages University. These three universities, one is specified for law studies, one is specified for linguistic studies, one is specified for general all the disciplines. So I try to explore. There is a perception. I won't say it is socially agreed or legally agreed. National law students or law faculty in the law are more sensible towards the sensitive issues of the society, that caste and social identities. On one hand, there is one more perception. The literary figures, the students or faculty of the literary disciplines are also more sensitive towards these caste and nuanced identities of the society. So I would like to trace out the perceptions of these students who pursue literature, who pursue legal studies. I try to compare these perceptions with the general students who were studying in the Hyderabad Central University. So the sample was 18. The sample, I restricted to collect the sample from the scheduled caste only. Scheduled caste involves scheduled caste from scheduled caste, like there are various categories across the country. There are various differences between the scheduled caste, right? You might have aware of. In Andhra Pradesh, there was a categorization issue. So scheduled category A, scheduled category B, scheduled category C. Scheduled category C were to be believed they're more advanced in academics, more advanced in availing the fruits of the state. It can in all aspects of the life. So the sample consists of all these categories: Madigas and Malas, and other scheduled caste variations across the country. 18 interviews were collected from the IFLU, Nalsar and SCU. For data analysis, I use the interpretative phenomenological analysis. It focuses on how individuals make sense of their experiences. I try to extract the real perception of the situation they face when they encounter the caste discrimination. It can caste discrimination. So to get the exact sense of their experiences, I use this interpretative phenomenological analysis. It also allows me to detail exploration of the students' emotions, their struggles, and their coping methods with the mechanisms within the institutional frameworks. And I use the thematic analysis I use the thematic analysis to summarize the responses from the students into the themes, and provide my analysis. So now let me get into the findings. The first theme is from guidelines to the sidelines. Institutional mechanisms for addressing caste discrimination. Sorry, I will restart by introducing the first theme, from guidelines to the sidelines. Several universities have established dedicated mechanisms to address the discrimination faced by scheduled caste students and to cater their academic interest. These mechanisms includes establishing an anti-ragging committee, counseling center, equal opportunity cell, internal complaints committee, SCST cell, anti-discrimination officer, and so on. According to the official websites of the three field institutions, these mechanisms, according to the official websites of the field institutions, these mechanisms comply with the UGC regulations of 2012 and UGC regulations of the 2015 and UGC regulations of the 1998. The primary objective of these initiatives is to align with the principles of equity and dignity and ensuring inclusive academic spaces to all the students coming from all the social categories. But though all the institutions established all these committees across these three institutions, there is a negligence by all the institutions in establishing these mechanisms prior to 2012. Interestingly, unlike Nalsar University, the other two institutions do not explicitly state a commitment to equity, equality and dignity of students on their websites. Instead, they noted that in compliance with the UGC regulations, approval has been granted for the establishment of these committees. So, the primary objective of the initiatives is to align with the principles of the equity and dignity and ensuring the inclusive academic space. While establishing these initiatives in their universities, in their institutions, these universities in their official websites stated that they established these initiatives to be in compliance with the UGC regulations instead of to showcase their commitment to equity, equality and dignity. So the feedback of the respondents across the universities also showcase the same. Nalsar University is an exception for this. It clearly stated that the university stand by the commitment to the equity, equality and dignity of the students. So it was the persistent struggle and the sacrifices of the victims in the three universities, primarily from the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe students, that compel these institutions to act in line with these guidelines. Prior to 2012, there was no space for establishment of these initiatives. But there is a small difference between Nalsar, IFLU and the Hyderabad University. Hyderabad University in 1998 itself has been following the guidelines of UGC guidelines of 1998. It has established CST cell in 1998 and a remedial coaching center. But SCST cell is only confined to the implementing the reservation issues, reservation policy, and to deal with the problems faced by the SCST students. But it did not deal with it didn't delve into the dealing of caste-based discrimination of the students of SCU. However, the SCST cell focused mainly on reservations, admissions and facility-related supports for SCST students. These issues were handled by, whenever caste discrimination occurs in the university, these issues were handled by the University Grievance Committee, the Proctor Committee or the newer committees which included SCST, which also include SCST members. Field notes from the SCU shows that the SCST cell often sides with the administration on reservation and admission issues rather than supporting SCST students. The university prioritizes gender equality, ecological preservation and animal welfare but neglects the caste awareness, weakening inclusivity and social justice. Despite the SCST cell and remedial coaching center, discriminatory incidents have led SCST students to demand a dedicated committees to demand the establishment of dedicated committees. This problem extends beyond SCU to many higher education institutions like IITs, IIMs, AIMs and central universities, where SCST students face discrimination and poor reservation policy enforcement. Some cases have ended in suicides, such as Senthil Kumar suicide in SCU in 2006 and investigation of 10 students in 2012. So, though there are strict guidelines by the UGC, Prior to 2012, there was no establishment of the committees. However, though since 2012, though all these institutions established all these committees, there was the condition of the SC/ST students in Nalsar and Hyderabad University, Nalsar and IFLU was different from Hyderabad Central University. Hyderabad University students were protesting since 1990s. So the responses from the Nalsar and IFLU is clearly showcasing the condition of the students of the Nalsar in IFLU. There is a response from the Nalsar University. An IFLU student says that I saw how scheduled caste students at SCU pressured university authorities through protest to address harsh campus conditions. Their two-decade struggle inspired us to voice our own grievances through demonstrations. Before 2006, the students at IFLU had not organized against caste discrimination. But after the year, we formed an organization to advocate for rights and reservation policies. We protested for an establishment of SC/ST cell and a remedial coaching center, crucial for timely fellowships and scholarships. So, despite mandatory guidelines from the UGC and universities, Hyderabad University failed to establish all these committees. Before establishing the SC/ST cell in 1998 and remedial coaching center in 1998, the condition of the SC/ST students was very pathetic. There was an unofficial 144 section in the campus restricting the mobilization of the SC/ST students. They cannot able to share the dining. They cannot enter into the rooms of the upper caste students. If at all they unknowingly enter into the upper caste students, they are getting beaten by the upper caste students. They are not allowing to attend the church. The women students were not able to attain Punjabi dresses and so on. So given these conditions, SC/ST students in the Hyderabad University before 1998 they have done so many protest and demonstrations. Whenever they face retaliation whenever they face ignorance by the authorities, they try to they didn't even refrain from retaliating by their violence. Whenever they commit to violence, they are labeled as bullies and rowdies. So there was an incident in 2002. 10 students of the SC/ST students, particularly working, they are part of Ambedkar Student Association. They are restricted when they question the chief warden against the privatization of the hostels, privatization of the mess. So it was their relentless struggles, protest that pushed the university to establish SC/ST cell and remedial coaching center before 1998. So these are the same condition established in. So when it comes to the Nalsar, the condition was very pathetic. One response from the Nalsar says that we had no one to confide in about the campus struggles. Despite being a law institution, caste discrimination was ignored. Until 2002, hostel rooms were allocated based on the class codes. All the SC/ST students were allocated rooms on the upper stair of the hostel. The general category students were allocated on the ground floors. So there was no space for socialization between the scheduled caste students and the upper caste students. Some students groups emerged after 20. Excuse me.
You have 5 more minutes.
Yeah, I will finish it. I have 2 more findings only. I will finish it. So Dalit students groups emerged after 2014 only. Feeling powerless, so many students dropped out from their academics. It is the condition of the redressal mechanisms, establishment of the redressal mechanisms in these 3 universities before 2012, and the condition and the discrimination they face in these 3 universities was so. And the resistance, the stage of the the condition of the resistance, the capacities of the organization of the students against the caste discrimination is so in these three universities. So what I want to say is, the guidelines by the university, the guidelines by the UGC were thoroughly sidelined by all these universities prior to 2012. Even they established in 2012, no university committed for the equity and dignity of the SC/ST students. The second one is, the second theme of my findings is, after 2012, the several committees were established. The SC representatives in the redressal mechanisms was so pathetic. I will read out some responses from all the three universities. There was no independency for the SC. There was no independency for the representatives of SC cell in all these committees. All these committees. SC/ST cell at Nalsar has only one Dalit faculty member. This individual does not support SC/ST students. Equal Opportunity Cell and Internal Complaints Committee rarely include SC/ST students and often side with the upper caste faculty. It was a response from the Nalsar respondent. These members act as mediators, downplaying issues with independent authority, as their promotions and funding depend on university authorities. A response from IFLU SCU states that SC/ST cell members and representatives on disciplinary boards are selected based on their alignment with the Vice Chancellor and upper caste faculty. Who have defended the upper caste faculty. None have defended the SC/ST students or acknowledged caste discrimination, even in cases like suicides of Senthil Kumar, Pullala Raju and Venkatesh. It was the situation of it was the condition of the SC/ST representation in the SC/ST cell in Hyderabad Central University. When it comes to the IFLU, SC representatives in these committees are often used to intimidate complainants and suppress supportive SC faculty. They pacify complaints in favor of the accused, sometimes making statements that harm complainants. In some cases, they even file complaints against the complainants, creating confusion and inciting conflicts. Though some SC faculty, some SC representatives in the committees empathize with the SC students and have helped the Dalit individuals, they remain ultimately under the university control and are often used against their own peers. It is the condition of the SC representatives in the SC/ST cells and other committees in these three universities. So bridging the gap. The third theme is bridging the gap. The challenges in implementing the redressal mechanism is, despite the UGC regulations since 1990, most universities except FCCU to some extent lacked dedicated support for SC students. In spite of judiciary directives and the Colloquium incident forced institutions to establish such mechanisms, reports of caste discrimination and SC student suicides raised doubts about their effectiveness. A petition filed by Hyderabad University teachers highlighted that grievance committees and SC/ST cells are largely non-functional and inaccessible. Despite implementing these initiatives, universities show little commitment to addressing caste discrimination. The reluctance to establish effective mechanisms over decades questions their intent. A key concern is why these institutions have been so slow in establishing meaningful support if they are genuinely dedicated to Dalit students. None of the respondents spoke positively about their institution's commitment or the functioning of the committees. SC/ST cells and other initiatives face major challenges, including weak structures, flawed committee formations, biased attitudes, and false reports. Respondents across the institution highlighted that these committees struggle to resolve caste-related issues effectively, often failing to provide real support. Without structural reforms and genuine commitment, these bodies remain largely ineffective in addressing caste discrimination. A respondent from Nalsar noted that SC/ST cell set up around 2012, 2013 and 14 started with one member and later expanded to 5 to 6. However, it remains ineffective due to poor organization. poor organization, unclear complaint procedure, and lack of a proper outreach. Victims have no guidance on whom to approach, and awareness about the cell is minimal beyond its mention on the university website. Complaints often go to individual professors, but justice is rarely ensured, leaving students without redressal. The cell's structure and function do not align with the official guidelines. And a few respondents highlighted that until 2011 and 12, the campus lacked an anti-discrimination officer, SCST cell and remedial coaching center. Committees addressing caste discrimination are dominated by upper caste faculty who delay inquiries and obstruct justice. Students face difficulties in navigating these processes as questioning is intentionally complicated. Remedial coaching centers lack structures. Teachers are not assigned on time. Upper caste faculty often skip classes, and student engagement is minimal. Despite this, false records claim regular classes. In a Sri Ramanu case, which happened in university, he was restricted from the university on some issues. The committee falsely stated that remedial classes were conducted. It says that he didn't attend the remedial classes. His complaint is that remedial classes were not at all conducted. Against his complaint, the university filed a statement. Remedial classes were conducted. When challenged, they fabricated the attendance records also. This reflects a larger pattern where institutions create symbolic committees that fail to support Dalit students. The persistence of caste discrimination coupled with institutional negligence raises serious concerns about universities' commitment to social justice and inclusivity. So I would like to, there is a upper caste faculty syndicate established in all the universities. I will read out this one and I will finish. Yeah. The overwhelming presence of the upper caste faculty in committees combined with the exclusion of SC representatives from real decision making power reveals the convenience of the upper caste syndicate to maintain their control and shield the institution from accountability. SC complainants therefore are forced into a cycle of protest and resistance just to have their voices heard, while SC teachers remain powerless within a systematic design to marginalize their input. In all three institutions, the common theme is the calculated effort to ensure the SCST cell and other bodies meant to support SC students are weakened, mismanaged and are outright ignored. This deliberate negligence serves a maintenance of status quo, allowing upper caste faculty to control the process and prevent any meaningful challenge to the institutionalized caste hierarchies. I'll end up.
Thank you, Murali. Now, let me summarize the main points of these presentations. Presentation by Akshaya and Adona Maria James on laws can protect, but can society change? The deep-rooted challenge of caste discrimination. This presentation explores caste-based discrimination in India, emphasizing that legal protections exist, but are often ineffective due to deep-rooted societal biases. It outlines constitutional safeguards like Article 14, 15, 17, and 46, alongside laws such as the SCST, Prevention of Atrocities Act, 1989. Despite these measures, cases like Rohit Vemula's suicide and temple entry denials highlight persistent discrimination and the psychological burden on marginalized communities. Literary works like Karaku and Judan provide personal narratives of caste oppression, reinforcing how societal attitudes undermines legal efforts. The conclusion stresses us that meaningful change requires not just laws, but societal awareness, stronger enforcement, and collective action from government, judiciary, and civil society. And main points from the second presentation by Murali on caste marginalization and redressal mechanisms in higher education institutions examines caste-based marginalization in higher education institutions and the failure of redressal mechanisms despite official policies. It highlights the Supreme Court's directive to the UGC for better implementation of equal opportunity cells and the impact of inadequate safeguards on SC/ST students, including rising rates of suicides. Findings reveals that grievance mechanisms often function as bureaucratic formalities with upper caste dominance in inquiry committees, undermining justice for marginalized students. Institutional resistance to acknowledging caste discrimination, along with the symbolic compliance rather than genuine commitment, leaves SC/ST students without meaningful support. This presentation concludes with the recommendations for strengthening accountability, empowering SC representation, supporting student advocacy, and implementing legal reforms to bridge the gap between policy and practice. Now the floor is open for discussion. We have 10 minutes for question answer session. Thank you. Over to the audience.
There are other mics turned on. This is about the law for the first panel. So you were talking about article. All of us, everybody imagines that Constitution has abolished caste. No, Constitution abolished untouchability. Untouchability is different from caste. So a question for you is, if you say Constitution has abolished untouchability and it is a egalitarian constitution we have, then why is that, okay, I'll ask you the other way. What does the Constitution say about Hinduism? What does the Constitution say about Hinduism? What does it say? Because Hinduism is, Baba Sahib Ambedkar said that in Hinduism you cannot reform. Therefore, I will leave Hinduism. I was born as a Hindu, I will never die as a Hindu. I don't agree with that statement, but anyway, let us stick with that. In that statement, he says that. So Hinduism is the root of, on the caste discrimination, I'm not talking about other sides, on caste discrimination, that is the root. I suppose you also agree with that. If you agree with that, I want your response about that aspect. About what does Constitution say about Hinduism? One. For the second panel, you were talking about upper caste faculties, Dalit faculties. See, actually that, whom do you say upper caste and whom do you say Dalit faculty? The reason is, okay, recently the Supreme Court has brought up the subclassification judgment. In that judgment it said, between Malas and Madhyas, between Parayas and Chakliyas, Polayas in Kerala, they all discriminate other Dalits. So in that case, Mandava Krishna Madhya, different Dalit groups are saying, other Dalit groups are protesting. Now when you say upper caste, for the lower caste, there are Dalits are also upper caste. So you are saying that you have to empower Dalits. But some Dalits say, some Dalits who are already on power, they are oppressing us. So whom do you want to empower? And do you see that classification of upper caste and Dalits is in a wrong footage? Because I feel there is something wrong in that. I don't want to bring it very openly. I just want you to reflect on that. Thank you.
Yes, I think Constitution doesn't describe Hinduism. I think so. I feel so. I read the Constitution, I studied the Constitution, but I didn't see in any way what about the Hinduism. First of all, that thing. Another thing is we are always criticizing upper caste. Forget it that words, because the system is changing. What is our next strategy to overcome this one? That is more important. We have to think that level. Every time we are in a victimized, always being victim. Forget it. That is a reality. Forget it. And we have to change another strategy. That is the one is Buddhism or education. These religions are reality. They will practice it. Don't criticize them. They can. Even in the temple entry, we forget in the temple. There is no need to enter in the temple. That is upper caste temple. Why? What is our role in that temple? We have your own gods and beliefs, and forget it that temples. Even the national movement also made some kind of a temple entry in Kerala. That is reality. What is happened? That I can make a suggestion. Everything, both of you are always saying that victimizing problem. I am always speaking of the victim. Forget it.
Is there any more questions? We have like our professors with us. I request any of them, like if they want to comment on these issues.
Excuse me. I will reflect on Ramchandran's point. He asked on classification of upper caste faculty and Dalit faculty, right? Yeah, upper caste, the parameter for classification of upper caste faculty and Dalit faculty. Dalit faculty and upper caste faculty. Upper caste faculty, the academic mobility of the upper caste faculty in the academic space is driven by their social sensitivity, right? Social sensitivity and social and historical and economical and cultural sensitivity. So there is a clear-cut demarcation between the subjects. Who it can be faculty and it can be students, it can be staff, whoever it is. The subjectivity of subject is always driven by its a social baggage, right? Social baggage. So it's a social reality. The social reality only drives the upper caste faculty towards dealing the social situation. A social situation is Dalit students, particularly scheduled caste students who are labeled as children of God and effortless receivers of the fruits of the Constitution, right? So there is an intolerance by the upper caste faculty. It's a social reality, right? The social reality. So there is a clear-cut demarcation between these two. The upper caste faculty yacked upon the students who belong to the scheduled caste students, in every aspect of their life, while giving the marks to them, while encouraging in the class, while welcoming them into the speak on the subject. So the sociality of the subject drives them, right? So if the sociality belongs to their a dominant or a historically dominant entity, so how can we be away from understanding the gap between the demarcation between the upper caste faculty and upper Dalit faculty, right? So that is why. So when it comes, so I agree that there is a dominance between there is a dominant within the scheduled caste faculty who belong to a certain categories. A certain category of the scheduled caste dominates socially another category of scheduled caste. So there is a dominant. For my study, I restrict myself to the primary demarcation of upper caste faculty who are non-Dalits. The parameter is being Dalit is a Dalit faculty, being non-Dalit is an upper caste faculty. I excluded scheduled tribes, right? So this. That is, I think I cannot hear because your loudness even while you are speaking. The mic is very closer to your mouth. I cannot clearly hear. But however, I think you have given a suggestion to me, right? Same question, right?
First of all, I like to say that everywhere we have heard that the victimized victim, we are victim, Rohit Vemula. And everywhere is, we can see in India, every nook and corner, Dalits have been beaten by the upper castes. But we are always crying. Please listen. And forget it that victimized role. We have to change our strategy to overcome them. And another thing is that we boycott the temples, upper caste temples, we have to boycott. The national level movement time, the upper caste led national movement people led the lower caste people to temple entry. But Ambedkar and Ayingali did not want that temple entry. We have entry in the education. And everywhere in a nook and corner, Dalits are not entering the temple. Forget it, their temple. Why? What is our business in their own temple? We have our own gods and deities, and we have to believe in that gods. That is I remembering. And the another one is a constitution. Indian constitution doesn't say about the Hinduism. That is another thing is a classification. That is a big issue. I didn't think that the Dalits have some kind of a discrimination or like there is some kind of anthropologically they have some kind of a stratification among the scheduled caste. There is not a homogeneous community, there is a unique community. But as far as concerned the representation, I am not saying the reservation. Always people saying the reservation. That is not true. The reservation is not true. That is a representation. Representation in the constitution is two level: education, employment, and political. To the three level, the constitution guaranteeing the representation. But in the sub-classification, the last judgment in the Supreme Court, Punjab versus, I forget that cases, that is in Andhra Pradesh, the Mala and the Madigi is a big community. The population is very high. There we can implement the sub-classification. But in Kerala, you look at in the Kerala, the tribal population in Kerala is 1.40. The reservation is only, so-called reservation is only 2%. The major population among the scheduled tribes is 1 lakh in Paniya people, and another people is 300, 1,500, 30,000 like that population. How we can implement that type of sub-classification? Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm speaking not as a professor, but Joby wanted me to say responses to the presenters. So thank you very much, the panelists. And I listened carefully to both the presentations. And I guess the most important thing is to see how from this presentation, how these scholars can develop their papers. That I think is, I'm not saying that other questions are not important, they are very important, and they will have some effect on the way you thought about your questions as well. So, you have been giving the first panelist a very broad brush strokes quoting from the Constitution and other kinds of things. We don't have any disagreements with that. But the most important point is to see how you really address these central issues that you wanted to bring up in your presentation. So I request you to think further about, really repositioning yourself in terms of the questions that you really wanted to bring in. So that is one thing. If we do that, then if you follow the presentation, the keynote address of Professor Deshpande, you will soon realize that it's more important to talk about the context and then move on to, the kind of things that you wanted to say. So where, all these references to the narratives and novels, the literary things that you have said, how does it build into your, major argument? And you talked about law, so what about, the kind of stuff that you read in, for example, sociology of law? So it, a real engagement with your paper demands a lot of time. Probably some of this we can have in private conversation, but I think it's more important to help you out of this. And to, I don't know if it is part of your thesis or if it is an independent paper that you want to publish, etc. In either case, I request you to really go into the details of, certain kind of, I don't know if you are interested in case studies, etc., where this, probably it is already there in your work, but it was not presented here. So that's the context where all these things could be really looked at. And then, you can really come up with some very interesting kind of, ideas regarding this. So whereas here, again, question of resistance, etc., come in. Those things were really not there, but I understand that that is very much embedded in the way you have been arguing. So I request you to, really bring up your case. First, you have to bring in your materials. That's the most important thing. And then you engage with that and then develop it as a paper. Many other things are almost known to everyone, but I request you to, really think about that and, bring it up in a formidable sense so that it becomes a real contribution. And to the second presenter, Dr. Murali, so this is from your PhD. So I cannot comment on that because all these issues you must have really gone into that. But I wish to draw your attention to the kind of studies that we have, mostly by sociologists of education, not just in India but elsewhere, bringing up these questions of class, race, education, and so on. So I don't want to go into the details because you are the expert, you have done this study, but I guess those issues are to be foregrounded if you really want to bring out a paper out of this. So I just leave it because there are many other people learned than me who will enrich your discussion. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you so much for your suggestion, and definitely we'll be incorporating all what you have said in our paper, but a lot of things that we have included in the paper we couldn't present it because of the time constraints. And thank you, sir. And to answer the question that sir has asked, in my opinion, the Constitution does not address something called Hinduism. Instead, it ensures secularism, because by the 42nd Amendment Act, we have actually included the word secularism in our preamble. And so there is nothing about Hinduism, Islam, or Christianity in our Constitution. Instead, people are free to follow any religion of their choice, and we have, the freedom of religion as a fundamental right being protected under Part 3 of the Constitution. And
Yeah, talking of this untouchability, of course, Article 17 abolishes untouchability, not caste system. We actually, we are actually embracing the caste for the sake of some affirmative actions, like, for example, Article 342, 341, if I'm not wrong. It actually states who all belong to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes for the sake of giving them some affirmative actions, or for the sake of reservation policies. So there is no abolishment of caste system, like you said, but there is, of course, the evil practices associated with the caste system has been abolished by the Constitution. Yeah, I think I'm quite clear. Oh, yes.
No, I actually don't have a question. I just wanted to, as an old person here, right? I wanted to amplify what Professor Sanalvan was saying. I want to speak, I don't want to talk about the content of what you said. I want to talk about the mechanics of presentations, right? Now, you know you will have less time before the fact. So don't say time constraint, because you know that you will have 10 to 15 minutes. This is going to be the story of your life for the next 20 years. Before 20 years, nobody is going to give you 35 minutes like they gave me, right? So you have to be old before you get more time. So if there is going to be less time, how do you use it? Right? That's what Professor Mohan was also saying. Focus on your findings. What everybody knows, don't spend time on it. So roughly speaking, both your presentations, the time spent on the last part and the first part should have been reversed. You should have spent 1/3 of the time on the first part and much more on the last part, right? So what you have found is always more interesting than all the, preliminaries, right? So that's just about the mechanics of presentations. And know that you will not get more than 15 minutes, right? So you have to plan for that. It's no point complaining about it. And everybody will face that. It's not just you. It's no conspiracy against you, right? So make the best of those 15 minutes. That's
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, but I would like to add something, because we were actually told that we will be given 25 minutes for the presentation. Now only we understood we will be given only 15 minutes. Yeah, that's what happened, actually. Yes, yes.
So, so actually, Constitution, first, Constitution is not a law. Constitution is a preamble kind of a document guiding the nation to bring laws and acts. So Constitution doesn't say. Constitution is a foundation. Okay, in that foundation, Article 25 says freedom of religion, practice. So where is the freedom of religion? What is religion? Constitution doesn't say. You have to go back to the article of 5 acts are there which talks about Hinduism Act, Hindu Succession Act, Hindu Marriage Act. Who is a Hindu? And what is a Hindu law? What does the Hinduism say in that? Actually, that is a contradictory of all of our presentation. That one way we all believe that untouchability is eradicated, caste is abolished, okay? But no, caste is promoted. There are 3, 4 laws are there. One is 3 laws are applied. One is custom law. In family law, custom law is one of the law which is not written in the books. If this is my custom that I keep a woman in puberty keeping out, that is custom. It is practice, it is legal. So caste practice is also legal in that sense. Nobody says it is not illegal. So Hinduism, who is a Hindu if you ask, the article says who is a Hindu. And the customs of Hindu is promoted, is uplifted, which is protected by the Article 25. So therefore, Hinduism, what I meant was that. So it is not that caste system was abolished. No, caste system is there. And why I'm arguing this is, see, whenever, that's what when SC/ST, when we talk about upper caste, lower caste, the problem here, what I want to say is, that one person also was telling, why do you enter into a temple? See, actually, in caste system, that's what Ambedkar said. Ambedkar said, Periyar said, and Ambedkar said, there are many books you have. In many books you bring one book and say, this is the Hindu book. Okay, he said, that is what he says. Similarly, in family law, Hindu family law, if you go and read that Hindu family law, that is a big book, okay? They said that Datta has written that book. That is the biggest, that is a important book in judiciary, they look into that book. That book, if you go, he will talk about Manusmriti. He will take how Manu law is a big law, and that has been referred in many courts. And now you have to understand in context of Rajasthan High Court where Manu statue is there. So it is not there. Legally approved. Caste discrimination is legally approved. We are not studying law. That's the problem. We study constitution and we don't go into the law. So that is what Ambedkar said. That is what I understood Ambedkar's understanding of constitution, keeping in his hand, saying that all of Dalits who are working on caste, Dalits should read, at least before they die, they should do a law. Only law can give us self-respect. So when you go for history of Bama, Karaku, there will be another history. Tomorrow I will write my history. Then you will give some other statistics. No, I'm saying where is the issue? The issue is in the law. That kind of an understanding should be there. So my brother, what I was trying to say is, see brother, in one example I'm giving, in English and Foreign Languages University, when Dalit movement was there, without OBCs, not all OBCs, without OBCs, without Brahmin faculties, we could have not even set up a Dalit movement there. Same thing, Mala Madhya movement, whatever you say, without ASA's contribution, DSU also takes it. Ambedkar's contribution is for all. So therefore, when you classify into segregate, that is not a good politics, I want to say. You have to be very cautious in using that term, because there are very few people, we have to come above that. That's what my argument was. So I think you got that point, okay? Constitution never gives. Hinduism is approved religion. You know, one more thing, anti-Muslim comes from our family law. In Hinduism, you know what does Hindus say? Who is a Hindu? Family law says, those who are not Muslims, Christians and Jews, they are all Hindus. So if you say on caste, what does it say? No, we are all Hindus, so follow the caste system. So, and what does it say? Buddhism, they are also Hindus. What did Ambedkar, this is what contradictory said. Ambedkar said, I was born as a Hindu, I will not die as a Hindu. But according to the family law, he is a Hindu. So these things we have to come up with this. Thank you.
We'll take one more question and their response, and then we'll wind up.
Sorry, it's not a question. I'm really happy to see the students of law here, because they consider mostly something beyond the boundaries of law as not part of their studies, and I'm really thankful to the students. So I just want to add that question which came, connecting the question of untouchability with that of the religion Hindu. So when I was a student of law, I didn't realize that why there is inverted commas to untouchability, the term untouchability. The only term which comes with the inverted comma in the Indian Constitution. So why is it so? So when I became a teacher, I was worrying, okay, where this inverted commas came. And I went back to the Constituent Assembly debates and I realized that untouchability has a literal meaning. It's like during COVID when we were doing quarantine, it's a way of untouchability. But bringing what Satish Deshpande was mentioning in the morning, contextualizing the term untouchability within the Hindu caste practices. So it's clearly in the Constituent Assembly debates, they were debating the literal meaning of untouchability vis-a-vis the historical discrimination and social disability practices attached to the term untouchability. So through that inverted commas, Indian Constitution contextualized it with the Hindu practice of historical discrimination and social disabilities attached to the Hindu religious practice of untouchability. So there is an invisible interpretation of the Constitution through those inverted commas, which brings the Hindu casteist practice to the very literal meaning of untouchability. So Article 17 we can interpret in that way too. Otherwise it's the way to interpret Article 17. So it's not untouchability, but it really contextualizes it with the casteist disabilities and historical discrimination through that. Thank you.
You want to one last question?
Hello, yes. See, now we are well aware that in spite of all those mechanisms, legal mechanism, and Atrocities Act like such a legal framework and the constitutional safeguards. These atrocities, cruel forms of atrocities are increasing day by day. According to the latest data by the National Crime Record Bureau, every minute 160 crimes are occurring against Dalits of India. Every minute. So it is going on. So why the system is failed? Why the system fails? Why the law failed? Why the constitution failed? Even our percentage, they were proposing that bringing awareness can change. I don't think. Based on the experience of 300 million Dalits of India, this awareness won't change the system of discrimination and these cruelties. You know, in rural areas, the uneducated, ordinary caste Hindus are actually doing all the kind of cruelties against Dalit people and tribal people in rural areas. But we can understand, maybe because of their ignorance and the lack of education may compel them to continue the practice of discrimination. But what is happening in the higher learning centers? When the highly educated, intellectually the liberated people, when they commit these cruel forms of discrimination in IITs, IIMs and higher learning centers, even the Brahmanically influential people or the caste belief people in Google and such technical spaces, they are also discriminating, because hundreds of cases of atrocities have been recorded from abroad, where these Brahmanical people are working along with the lower caste, that means Dalit people. They both are working in Google as well as such platforms. There are hundreds of cases are there. How the awareness can bring, even the higher education, the research scholars, the highly learned people are practicing the same kind of injustice, discrimination and atrocities as the rural, ignorant, these Hindu people. People believe that they are upper caste, they practice. So where is the question of bringing change through education? So my question is, there is a contradiction of constitution, the law of the land and the law of their personal belief is in contradiction. So these practicing Brahmanical, the hegemonial people, they will give more importance to their religious laws than the laws of the land. So there is where the constitution failed and always the religious laws, Manusmriti is succeed. My question, last question is, when the theology is committed, it is not the individuals are committing the crimes, it is the belief system which encourage them to commit these crimes is the problem. When the theology and the belief system give all the sanction to commit this kind of cruelties from centuries, is there any provision to punish, penalize this theology, the anti-human theology, the anti-human belief system? As Ambedkar said, do we have the courage to bombard these Vedas, these Sudhis and Smrtis? Do we have the courage to dynamite these Vedas and Sudhis which give the legal, theological, divine sanction for these existing cruelties?
Now, who will respond?
Sir, I do agree with you partially, because awareness alone cannot tackle the issue. But still, awareness can to some extent, prevent the crimes committed against, as you said, the crimes committed against these Dalits or the oppressed community ones has been increasing day by day. So at least we can avoid that, because mostly this is happening in the rural areas because of lack of awareness, and some even don't understand what they are doing, and hate crimes are particularly more when it comes to caste system. And so I think we can avoid that to some extent with the awareness, grassroots level awareness can be given to such people. And of course, and as you said, if discrimination is being faced, in elite institutions or by educated, or if discrimination is being practiced by the educated people, I don't know, because that may be because this caste system is deeply ingrained in their minds, and that's what we are saying, the mindsets should undergo the change. And about the theology, we have the laws to punish those who practice the caste discrimination. Like, for example, as you said, the Atrocities Act itself penalizes any act of discrimination or untouchability. So I think I've answered your question. I don't know.
So we cannot say that Constitution is failed to prevent caste discrimination, because despite all this legal framework, why this atrocity increases? It's because obviously social prejudice. Only if a person is aware of the rights, fundamental rights, they can only fight for it. So many people, you said that in rural areas, still people are unaware about the fundamental rights. It's very sad to know that, very sad to say that, because that's why we said that awareness is the key to aware about our fundamental rights. Yeah, that's what.
Thank you. We are winding up this session. Thank you for all the participants for your attention, and special thanks to Professor Satish Deshpande and Professor Sanal Mohan for your constructive suggestions to the presenters as well as all of us for our future presentations in this kind of academic engagement. Now we break for the lunch, and afternoon we have one more technical session titled Embodied Resistance, Body and Space. Thank you.